Week 1 of the fantasy season is almost here and you need to move quick because the 7 wide receivers in this video could explode in value by the time they play in week 1. And that's why you should try and trade for them before that happens. I'll break down why in this video. And if you're not familiar, I'm Sal Vetri. I've been helping people win their fantasy leagues for nearly 8 years and plan to do the same for you in this video. And we're going to start with the Broncos' #1 receiver, by far their #1 receiver, arguably like their only receiver, right? That's going to get a lot of target share this year. And Courtland Sutton, who's coming off of the most productive season of his career. And who knew it was going to happen with a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix, who a lot of people doubted, but not Sean Payton. Bo Nix played well towards the second half of the season after they moved the offense and shifted it around him a little bit more, and that helped Courtland Sutton finish as a top 24 wide receiver, over 14 fantasy points per game. He ended up having 8 touchdowns as well. But if you dive deeper into the numbers, his second half of the season, when Bo Nix finally got his footing in the NFL, looked really good. Because over those final 10 games, Courtland Sutton ended up averaging over 18 fantasy points per game, nearly 9 targets per game. He had 80 receiving yards per game. He was the only wide receiver over these 10 games to have at least a touchdown or 80 receiving yards in 8 out of those 10 games. He was fantastic. He was a top 12 receiver, a wide receiver 1 in fantasy during that time. And overall on the entire season, this is what Sutton produced. 135 targets, the 13th best in the NFL, a strong 25% target share, and a red zone role that was a cheat code with 22 targets inside the 20-yard line. In downfield, Sutton was the same story. Like I mentioned, he had the cheat code targets. That's the red zone targets and the downfield usage. He had the second most air yards in the NFL with Bo Nix, who was deemed this only throw it short, check down type guy. Not when it came to Courtland Sutton in the NFL last year. Bo Nix loved Courtland Sutton, and there's no reason to think that that's going to change this year. In terms of fantasy points data, this tweet, the most trusted targets. So most targets on third downs that went for a first down this year. #1 in the NFL was Wan'Dale Robinson. I don't know if that's as much as a talent thing or as much as like, Daniel Jones loving to check it down to the slot wide receiver in that offense with a bad offensive line. #2, Courtland Sutton, 57% of his team's targets on third downs that went for first downs is going to be a very strong number, and it's only going to continue this year because this is the wide receiver competition. In terms of the final preseason game, the #2 wide receiver was Marvin Mims. At the end of training camp, he was a little bit banged up, but he's going to be practicing this week. A rookie in Pat Bryant, who wasn't playing with the starters. Troy Franklin was operating as the #2 receiver or #3 receiver in preseason to end it. Maybe could be the #2 receiver. That's what we're kind of getting right now. He has a history at Oregon with Bo Nix. And then if we go down here and we look at the tight end, oh, that's not the tight end. We look at the tight end addition in Evan Ingram, which there's rumors. Some people say true. Some people say it's not true. A lot of the Broncos insiders do believe that Evan Ingram will be the joker for Sean Payton, moved all around the formation. And I do think he's going to soak up a lot of targets. I do think Evan Ingram this season could, at the high end, catch 80 to 90 plus balls. And yeah, sure, that's going to be more competition for Sutton than he had last year, but it's not the same area of the field. It's not those downfield targets where Sutton can really eat. And as I mentioned, we're now moving into year 2 for Bo Nix, a guy that already showed that he could break out in year 1, and maybe that continues heading into this season because we saw it last year in those final 10 games of the season. Bo Nix ended up ranking top 10 in basically everything. Passing yards per game, attempts per game, quarterback efficiency. You name it, completion rate, touchdowns. It was all there for the rookie, now turned second-year player, sophomore Bo Nix. And we got to see that chemistry only continue in the final preseason game where the Broncos used it as sort of a dress rehearsal for about a half of football. Sutton played 100% of the snaps, ran 100% of the routes, and earned 50% of the targets. He had 7 targets in one half of play, 83 yards, and a touchdown. Obviously, it's preseason. Obviously, the defense he was facing wasn't going all out, wasn't every single starter on that defense, but this just shows he does not have any competition this year for target share, and that's to start the season. That's not even to say if somebody was to miss time and get banged up like Evan Ingram has as recent as last year. So when it comes to Courtland Sutton right now, I just believe the second half of what we saw last year, 18 points per game, sure, maybe that's a high-end outcome, but it's very much in reach. I think he's easily a top 24 wide receiver this year. I think the top 12 upside is certainly there for him. We just saw it last season, and if you can, before the season starts, trade for Courtland Sutton, I'd be trying to do that right now. And I would definitely be trying to trade for this next guy. Before we get into him, 2 seconds, hit the subscribe button. We are so close to 200,000. It's a big goal of mine. I appreciate it if you could hit that. If you find these videos helpful, it would mean the world. And that player I'm talking about is Xavier Worthy, who had a, let's just say, not great rookie year, but he definitely had a great finish to the year, especially when it mattered most. Now, if we go into Xavier Worthy's stats as a rookie out of Texas for the Chiefs last year, it started off nice. That first game, he had the 2 touchdowns. You can see right here, one was a broken play, one was like an end around. 59 catches, 638 yards. In most years for a rookie wide receiver, if you're pushing towards 60 catches, over 600 yards, that's a situation where you're coming into an offense where there was a Rashee Rice to start the year, there was a Travis Kelce, this would be seen as a massive season. But for the most part, it was kind of a letdown because he was a first-round pick. Rashee Rice got hurt. They thought there would be more for Xavier Worthy. And at times in the beginning to middle parts of the season, it seemed like, especially as an outside receiver, Xavier Worthy wasn't on the same page with Patrick Mahomes, being overthrown, stepping out of bounds, those types of things. But then his role changed to end the season when Rashee Rice got hurt. He moved into that slot role, especially down the stretch. These final 3 games of the regular season, 21 fantasy points per game, 10 targets per game for Xavier Worthy. That only continued into the postseason. If you can see right here, in the first game of the postseason, he has 5 receptions. Second game, 6 catches, 85 yards and a touchdown against the Bills. And then obviously in the Super Bowl, a blowout. This was obviously partially also blowout run in the second half. 8 catches, 157 yards, 2 touchdowns. Again, we could put the asterisk by that because it was a blowout. But in his final 6 games of the year, just on paper stats wise, he was the number 1 receiver for this team and he was producing like it. And then you look at this very helpful tweet that we've showed before from Jared Smola over on Twitter. Be sure to check him out. He compares the final 8 games of Rashee Rice's rookie season to Xavier Worthy. Remember 2 years ago, Rashee Rice came on down the stretch. Same thing with Xavier Worthy last year. In terms of everything right here, target share, their ability to earn targets in their offense, similar. Catches, similar. Yards, similar. Touchdowns, Worthy with 2 more. Every single thing here, Worthy more PPR points because of the touchdowns. Yards per out run identical. PFF grade identical. Everything remains the same. And then heading into year 2 for Rashee Rice, he was seen as one of the best picks in fantasy drafts as a value in like round 3, 4, or 5 before he ended up getting hurt. And now you can get Xavier Worthy, or you likely did if you drafted him in round 5, which is pretty crazy considering the news right here that Rashee Rice's suspension did come down last week and that he's going to serve a 6-game suspension to open the season, meaning that at bare minimum this season, Xavier Worthy profiles out as the number 1 receiver in a Patrick Mahomes offense with Andy Reid behind an improved offensive line. And that's just bare minimum. What if Rashee Rice doesn't come back or he comes back rusty? What if he comes back and he's not taking over right away as the number 1 receiver because Worthy is popping off? That's going to leave the starting wide receivers to start the year as Xavier Worthy, Marquise Brown. The hope is that the rookie Jalen Royals can get in there a little bit more, but veteran Juju Smith-Schuster has been playing. So like as it stands right now, I do like Marquise Brown as a waiver wire ad. I do like Marquise Brown as like a flex option in deeper leagues, especially for the first couple of weeks of the season. But I'm not shocked if Xavier Worthy picks off where he left off last year with like pushing 10 targets a game. I mean, this is a guy who, when it profiles out because of his speed profile, right, and the way that they used him in the slot last year as a speed guy, 4.21 speed, just elite speed when it comes to how fast this dude is. This is a guy, the fastest 40 time ever, right? This is somebody that profiles out. I'm not going to say talent-wise or the way that he plays the game like a Tyreek Hill, but the way in this exact same Chiefs offense with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, when they move into the slot, they give him these long developing routes to win with speed. That's where you can see some of those 20-point games like Tyreek had with Mahomes in the past. Here's kind of a little bit of an example of that from Frank Amarant over on Twitter. He says, Tyreek Hill, if you look at this right now, in the past, his rookie year, he had 61 catches, 593 yards. His second year, he broke out 75 catches, 1,100, nearly 1,200 yards. Xavier Worthy's rookie year, pretty much identical. Same amount of receptions, similar yardage, same touchdowns. And now he says with Rashee Rice suspended, what's going to happen in year 2? It just does make you wonder. And you can compare these players because they are highly thought of prospects after their first season, how they fit into the offense, who can play the slot and have speed. So I'm trying to trade for Xavier Worthy because he's going to be ranking as soon as week 1 very high for me. And if you want to see exactly where Worthy and my top 50 overall players rank for week 1 of the season in my flex rankings and the entire year, you can check it out right now totally free at flexrankings.com with the link in the description below. That's flexrankings.com. That will take you to this page where you enter your email and you get sent the flex rankings. Be sure to check your spam and promotional folders. And that's the case. Every single week of the season, I'll be updating this top 50 overall flex rankings to make sure you're setting the best lineups. But if you're in a very serious league where you need to make sure you have multiple flex spots, you're starting 3 wide receivers, or you just need more than a top 50 flex rankings, well, I've got you covered with my top 150 flex rankings, my waiver wire tools, my trade tools, matchup notes for every fantasy relevant player, and a whole lot more. That's why I built the Blueprint. It's what I use in all my leagues, and 10,000 people are currently using in their league. If you want to learn more about the Blueprint, you can go to this page. It's linked down below, or you can just type in jointheblueprint.com to learn more about all the tools that you will be getting in season. These are some reviews from last year of people who ended up using the product. 10,000 people last year. Over 10,000 people are back this year. 90% or so of people who signed up last year came back this year, which I believe just shows, hey, if that many people said the product was good, I want to come back. It helped me win my league. It helped me win my matchups. Probably shows that it's a quality product. So if you want to have all the tools that you need from week 1 to championship week and all of next year's draft season as well, you can check it out at jointheblueprint.com with the link in the description below so you can start smacking around your friends in fantasy. Now, the next receiver I'm trying to trade for before week 1, and I'm trying to get him so badly right now, is going to be Rome Odunze, who had a disappointing rookie year for no doubt about it, right? I mean, this was a guy who was a top 10 overall pick, wide receiver 1. A lot of people thought, definitely coming out of college, he was the number 1 wide receiver in Washington with Michael Penix, 1,600-yard season, and people thought he would have a big rookie year, but he disappointed. 8.5 points per game, wide receiver 56 in fantasy points per game, just 3 touchdowns, and most casual fans heading into this year kind of wrote him off, even though the situation is completely different. He doesn't have one of the worst play calling situations, one of the worst offensive lines. Now, rookie quarterback heading into this year, none of those things are the same. And when you actually look at it last year for Rome Odunze, like the way that they were using him, honestly, if they use him that way this year, I think it's going to lead to a lot of success. He was 11th overall in deep targets. He ranked top 10 in overall routes run. He was 11th in average target distance. He was seeing a lot of intermediate and deep targets. And now if you're going to get better quarterback play because there's a better offensive line and a better offensive coordinator with Ben Johnson, these deep developing routes that could lead to 20+ yard explosive plays, that was Rome Odunze's skill set in college, and he could do it in the NFL. The problem last year was only 58% of his targets were catchable. Again, that's a quarterback issue because of the offensive line and play calling, and Caleb Williams being a rookie, not a Rome Odunze issue. But this dude is built like an X wide receiver, 6'3", 212 pounds, could win on the boundary, right? This is a guy, when you look at overall his player profile or athletic testing when he was at the combine before his rookie season, speed is 94th percentile, agility 86th percentile, incredible 97th percentile catch radius. This is just a lot of nerd talk to basically say, amazing size, speed combination, good athlete, and we actually saw it in college and on film last year. He just wasn't getting catchable targets. Just a reminder, as I kind of mentioned earlier, this is a guy who in his final year of college, while playing next to a guy like Jalen McMillan, an NFL starter, Jalen Polk, who ends up missing this entire year with the Patriots, but two NFL players, including McMillan, who had a very good end to his rookie year with the Buccaneers, 1,600 yards, Rome Odunze playing next to those two guys on a 24.5% target share his final year of college. Now this is going to be a situation he walks into in year two, and it's totally different. And honestly, you're getting a discount if you drafted him in round 6, 7, 8 of your fantasy drafts, and maybe you can try and buy him right now, even if you have to overpay a little bit before he potentially breaks out in week 1. Because as I mentioned, the offensive line has completely improved this year. As you can see from Ian Hartitz right here, he talks about earlier this summer, change in PFF offensive line ranks from the end of 2024 to the preseason of 2025. Most improved offensive line, the Chicago Bears. They did a lot this offseason, right? They got a center in Drew Thalman. They traded for Joe Thuney. They got a bunch of other pieces on this offensive line, added pieces in the draft as well. The hope is that the offensive line is improved. The hope is, and this is almost a guarantee you would say, is that Ben Johnson, the new coach coming in from the Lions, who kind of made one of the most high-powered, if not the most high-powered offense in the NFL last year under him with the Detroit Lions. Now he's going to come in here with Ben Johnson. There's no more Keenan Allen, meaning 100+ targets are now open and are vacated. Sure, they brought in Colston Loveland, a rookie. Sure, they brought in Luther Burden, a rookie, although he hasn't been playing at all with the first-team offense in camp or really preseason. So the door is wide open right now for Rome Odunze to make that leap. Again, a reminder, this is a top 10 overall pick in the NFL draft type talent. The way that you look at Tetairoa McMillan this year, he's the same type of player in terms of the range of the draft that he went in, top 10 overall as Rome Odunze. And let's not forget, Ben Johnson made the Lions offense incredible, right? He had the Jameson Williams breakout last year. He had obviously Amon-Ra St. Brown continuing to see 100 receptions per year, both running backs being top 24, and Jahmyr Gibbs, a number 2 overall running back. He ended up having the Sam Laporta breakout, a slow start to his second year, Sam Laporta last year, but he ended very strong, and once again, basically a top 5 fantasy tight end. Like every piece of the Lions offense, literally even down to their wide receiver 3 some weeks, obviously their backup running back in David Montgomery, or their RB 2, 1A, 1B type situation, all of them are fantasy relevant, which makes me feel really strongly about the potential wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 in Rome Odunze this year for the Bears. And we got to see just a glimpse of this in the final preseason game, and a lot of your league mates don't pay attention to the preseason, and you should pay attention to the preseason, especially when the starters are getting a dress rehearsal like the Bears got in their final game. You can see right here in the first half, the Bears starters played. Odunze played every single snap in that final preseason game with the starters. He earned a very impressive and elite 33% target share. Basically only like 6 players ever have had a 30 or more % target share like the past decade. He ended up having 3 catches on 5 targets, 45 yards and a touchdown. He was easily Caleb Williams' favorite target. We even saw this in the previous game where the starters played in the second preseason game. They didn't play as much as the third one, but we saw even more usage from Rome Odunze as well. So I'm all in on trying to get this second-year player in Rome Odunze from the Bears, and I'm also in on getting this next rookie wide receiver as well. And that's Emeka Egbuka, who has just been skyrocketing up the rankings so far this summer. The training camp and preseason only went in his favor. This is the Ohio State first-round pick who in college had a lot of success. Multiple 1,000-yard seasons despite competing with legitimate NFL talent like you can see in 2022. And in 2024, a 1,000-yard season, 24% target share, despite dealing with maybe now the best wide receiver in college football, Jeremiah Smith. Like, this is a good numbers to be putting up, especially in the Big Ten against solid defenses. And that's exactly why he went in the first round to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the fact that he went in the first round to the Bucs when they already had Mike Evans and Chris Godwin speaks speaks volumes. We'll touch on more on that in a second. Emeka Egbuka, according to the Reception Perception, Matt Harmon's website, he grades out, watches all the film, 68% success rate against man. But the big thing, this is a slot wide receiver who can dominate zone. 82nd percentile success rate against zone. He was also very good in limited reps in terms of press coverage as well. And that's exactly why I think that we're going to see a nice season out of Emeka Egbuka right now. This is a guy who can dominate zone coverage, which is what he's going to see the majority of the time in the NFL. And when he lines up in the slot, that's where he dominated in college, and that's where he's reportedly in training camp with Baker Mayfield, lighting it up so far right now with the Bucs. So we could see that right here in terms of some of the stuff Baker's saying. Right now, I think we could use plug and play him, Emeka Egbuka, at any receiver spot. That's good that he might just play on the outside as well, not just in the slot, leads to some explosive plays, although I like him playing out of the slot as well, get more of the field. You can see he sat down with Kay Adams and he ends up saying, I don't know I've ever had a veteran teammate gas up a rookie wide receiver like these guys have done with Emeka Egbuka down in Tampa. So OTAs, training camp, he's getting all the hype, limited preseason action, he looks good, the quarterback loves him, the coaching staff loves him, and then all of his teammates around him just start to get injured. You look at it right here and you see Chris Godwin now is expected to miss the first 4 weeks, maybe the first 6 weeks of the season, right? He's not being put on the PUP list, but he's ended up going to be injured. He has the ankle injury from last year. Apparently he had some fibula issues and a whole bunch of other things happened to him. So he's going to miss some time. And my guess is that when they drafted Emeka Egbuka back in April, early May, they thought, oh yeah, Chris Godwin, this injury is going to be a problem. We need another wide receiver because all we have other than that is a 32-year-old Mike Evans right now that we trust. So let's spend a first-round pick on Emeka Egbuka. Back in April, a lot of people thought this was a luxury pick. It doesn't really make sense based on their other needs. And now it makes a ton of sense because the Bucs knew the injury status of Godwin at that point, that he had a second surgery to clean up the ankle and some other things were going on. Okay, so there's those things happening. And then Jalen McMillan hits the IR. He may end up missing 8 to 10 weeks of the season with a serious neck injury. They end up cutting Trey Palmer as well. He's already signed with another team, I believe. So you look at it right now, the only competition to start the season, obviously Mike Evans is competition. And then who's it going to be? Tez Johnson, at this point, a 30-plus-year-old Sterling Shepard. I'm not sure I'm too concerned about that in terms of explosiveness and ability to win after the catch. At this point, Emeka Egbuka could be a guy from week 1 who threatens for 7 to 8 targets. And imagine if the 32-year-old Mike Evans, who was injured last year with a hamstring, misses time this year, you're talking about probably a top 12 wide receiver attached to Baker Mayfield in a top 10 passing offense. So target Emeka Egbuka right now if you can in trades, if it's a package deal, whatever you have to do. And now I know this is a wide receiver video, but I have to talk about this next tight end because I'm trying to acquire Tyler Warren in leagues where I just didn't go for an early tight end, a stud tight end like a George Kittle or a Trey McBride in round 3 or 4. Tyler Warren is somebody that I want to end up getting if he did not land on my team already because he could be a top or a tight end 1 in fantasy, and I expect him to be as recent as his rookie year. Like I think he's going to finish top 12 overall at the tight end position this year, maybe even push towards that top 5 finish if things break his way. Just a reminder, this is a guy who in college was unreal. Let's just point this out. At Penn State last year, over 1,200 receiving yards, an insane 31% target share, 104 catches. Let me just say this. Tight ends in college, if they have a 40 reception season, it's like, oh my God, this tight end had 40 catches. 104 catches in the Big Ten. Insane for a tight end, especially to have a 31% target share. Like just absolutely mind-boggling. All the defenses knew that they were going to throw the ball at Penn State to Tyler Warren, and he still caught every ball and still earned every target. He's an absolute madman, and he's not just like this big body. He's actually a weapon. They used him in the backfield last year. He was able to get put in motion. He moved out wide. He moved in the slot. He has a lot of talent, which is why the Colts spent a first-round pick on him. As of this recording, Josh Downs is banged up. I'm expecting him to play week 1. Maybe by the time you're watching this, you have more news there on that. Michael Pittman, we'll see what his role is because in like 2 wide receiver sets, I assume he's still going to be running somewhat intermediate routes while whoever's on the outside between Adonai Mitchell and Alec Pierce is running those clear out routes. So for the most part, you're going to be getting Josh Downs when he's healthy and Tyler Warren running those short to intermediate routes, which plays perfectly into how this offense is built up because of their current quarterbacks. Daniel Jones loves throwing the ball short and into these small parts of the field. Think about it last year. Malik Neighbors, a lot of the time, was seeing these intermediate to short routes, was seeing 11 targets per game. But the big one, and the surprising one overall last year was exactly what happened with this guy, Wan'Dale Robinson. Remember Wan'Dale Robinson ranked top 10 in targets per game last year on the New York Giants, despite Malik Neighbors basically leading the NFL in targets? Absolutely insane. Warren can slide into this Wan'Dale Robinson role in some ways, and so could Josh Downs. Like he could play out that way as well. But if Warren is going to be seeing the Wan'Dale Robinson role, and you're going to give Tyler Warren a much better talent, in my opinion, than Wan'Dale Robinson with the ball in his hands, 7, 8, 9, 10 targets in a game sometimes, that feels really good. Throughout the preseason, we got to see some some sample of Tyler Warren with the starting offenses. He played 100% of the snaps in his first game, 93% of the snaps in his second game. So he ended up playing 34 out of a 35 possible snaps. If this guy doesn't come off the field, if your tight end's going to play 90+% of the snaps, you're basically locked in, especially if you're running all the routes, which you probably will. You're locked into being like a top 10 fantasy tight end. Then it just comes down to the touchdowns and your ability on a per reception basis to put up yards to see where you finish in that top 10. And I think that this is going to be a guy, even in a bad offense, who could still threaten to have like a 70, 80 reception season, can threaten to have a 7, 8+ touchdown season. He's somebody I'm targeting right now. And that's exactly why I like taking Tyler Warren for more than his receptions total this season, because as I just mentioned, the situation with his quarterback right now and the way that Tyler Warren wins is a perfect fit to go for more than his receptions. And since we're talking about making picks, I'm teaming up with DraftKings Pick 6 this year for week 1 to give you a shot at their biggest bag ever. Right now, all DraftKings Pick 6 customers can play for free for a shot at a cut of $1 million or more. Pick more or less on 6 player stats, share it with your crew because the more people that play, the bigger the bag grows, and if you hit all 6, you are in for a share of over $1 million. So if you want to play along, download the DraftKings Pick 6 app, sign up using my promo code SAL, and claim your free token today. Simply put, let's build this bag together. Now, the next player I want to talk about, and I am trading for and actively taking still in some of my final fantasy drafts, is going to be Ricky Pearsall of the 49ers, because this guy is like one of the most forgotten first-round picks. He's starting to gain some more steam, especially if you're somebody who watches every fantasy video on YouTube. I know the people are going to be in the comments, Ricky Pearsall, he's been an obvious take for 2 or 3 weeks now. Most of your friends who are just opening up their leagues and they're at the bars and they're talking about fantasy for the first time this past week aren't going to know how important the role is right now for Ricky Pearsall, and that's exactly why you can go to them and try and get him in a trade. I just love the people who are like, oh my God, like every single person in like the Twitter fantasy bubble or the YouTube fantasy bubble, they think those people are every single person in the world. Those people are the 1% of the 1% that care about fantasy football. Everybody in the real world probably doesn't even know who Ricky Pearsall is as a casual fan. But I'm about to tell a lot of you who he is. This is a guy who last year, look, in his rookie year, he dealt with a lot of injuries. He also got shot right before the season started, but at the end of the year, he started to pop off. His final 2 games, 24 fantasy points per game on 9 targets per game and 105 receiving yards per game. He was absolutely great in both of those contests to end the year. And now he heads into 2025 with like a clear pathway to potentially be the wide receiver 1 for Brock Purdy to start the year and maybe the entire season. Because as of right now, we're not going to see Brandon Ayuk for a while. According to SportsMD Analysis on Twitter, be sure to follow him. He's a doctor, a Harvard-trained sports surgeon. He says that Brandon Ayuk, coming off of his ACL and MCL injury, data projects for him to return between week 6 and week 8 in initial volatility stats due to the target volume. So here's the thing. Brandon Ayuk might not play until week 8, and even then he's going to be ramped back up into his role coming off of a serious knee injury. Then there's also the fact that as of right now, as of this recording, Jauan Jennings is still working through a calf issue, unsure if his week 1 status will be there according to GM John Lynch. This could also be contract related. John Lynch went on to say that 2 things could be true. He could have a calf injury, which was the case back in OTAs, and he could also want a new contract or at least an extension or some more money. By the time you're watching this, that might have already been figured out and solved. Great. But right now, there's also a chance Jauan Jennings gets put on IR or a PUP list, misses 4 games, or at least misses week 1. The way it stands right now, let's just assume Jennings was to play week 1. Again, maybe he's out by the time that you're watching this. Ricky Pearsall still could profile out as the number 1 receiver on this team. He is a first-round type pick. Sure, maybe they reached on him a little bit, but he was a great route runner in college at Florida. This is a guy who on film last year, when actually healthy down the stretch, also looked good in those final couple of games of the season. So even if Jauan Jennings does play, more of the underneath guy, more of the chain mover, Ricky Pearsall can win in all parts of the field. And now he's going to be combined and paired up with Brock Purdy, who every single year of his career as a starter has only been efficient. Some people can say it's because of Kyle Shanahan. That's obviously going to help, but also I think the guy is talented. We've already seen Brock Purdy support multiple top 20 wide receiver finishes in fantasy football. Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel years. Last year as well, you saw it with George Kittle out there, obviously a tight end, and then Jauan Jennings on a week-to-week basis, right? Whoever he has, he's able to support that, and now he's going to still have Kyle Shanahan. They bring back Brock Purdy on the extension, of course, with the 3rd easiest schedule in the NFL, according to Hayden Winks here, tweet here, which we've referenced. A top 3, arguably number 1 ranked San Fran, 25 points per game offense this year. A lot of people think the San Francisco 49ers, because of their defense, because of the Ayuk injury and losing Deebo Samuel in free agency, are going to be a bad offense this year. If anything, a bad defense means you have to throw the ball more. You have a healthy McCaffrey, healthy Ricky Pearsall, healthy George Kittle. This is still going to be one of the best offenses with Kyle Shanahan in the NFL. We also got to see a little bit of a sample with Ricky Pearsall in the preseason. They kind of kept him under bubble wrap because he dealt with his own hamstring injury during OTAs in the beginning parts of camp, and obviously all the other injuries on this offense's route now with all the backup running backs and Brandon Ayuk, of course. You can see here Pearsall in week 2 on just one drive that he got to play, 3 catches, 4 targets on 42 yards. He ran 88% of the routes. We love to see all that. 81% of the snaps. This is a guy who, as of week 1, is easily going to be a top 2 option in this offense, in my opinion, right there with George Kittle. And in terms of like leading the team in targets this year with Ayuk maybe missing half the season, my bet would be on Ricky Pearsall right now. And I'm also going to be betting on the Packers rookie wide receiver Matthew Golden, first round pick, to lead his team in targets this year. And I think not enough people are paying attention to him. Again, if you're in the Twitter bubble for fantasy football, if you're in the YouTube and Reddit bubbles, you know Matthew Golden. You know he's been rising all throughout the training camp process, but a lot of your friends and league mates who ended up taking him in maybe round 7 or 8 of their fantasy draft maybe don't view him that way. As a rookie, an unproven rookie, right? And who knows what's going to happen? The Packers ran the ball a ton last year. That's all the ammo you need to try and trade for him. Because this is a guy who on paper didn't even break 1,000 yards at Texas last year, although it was a very talented room in terms of Gunnar Helm. He's now an NFL tight end. Isaiah Bond is now an NFL wide receiver. Jaden Blue out of the backfield is now an NFL running back, right? A lot of competition there at Texas, and some of that competition is still there at Texas. He was a guy who transferred, came on later in the year, 1,000 yards, 16% target share, ended up going out there, 9 touchdowns as well. He had a lot of success on a per route basis, according to Reception Perception. Matt Harmon, this was a guy who was talented, not just this downfield speedster. We know he's fast based on his NFL combine time of a 4.29, but he could also win based on his routes. And if we just pull up some of his advanced metrics from college last year and you just don't look at those totals, according to Austin Abbott on Twitter, you can see right here he had a higher yards per catch than Tedero McMillan, higher catch percentage than Emeka Egbuka, which is very impressive considering that Matthew Golden was operating on the outside a lot more and Emeka Egbuka was in the slot, and a lower drop rate than Trey Harris last year. So those are some of the other top wide receiver prospects. He has strong hands, he has the speed to win downfield, and that pairs up very nicely with Jordan Love, who has a big arm and wants to target downfield. He's kind of a gunslinger in that way. And you look at his target competition, as of this recording, you have an injury to the foot for Jayden Reed, which is normally a 6 to 8 week recovery. By the time week 1 comes, it'll be about 4 weeks. He says he's hopeful to play. Who knows if he's actually going to play? Who knows by the time you're watching this if he gets put on the PUP list? I don't know at this point, but it looks like he's not going to be a factor all that much, not 100% at least to start the year. Dobbs will probably be in 2 wide receiver sets. Wicks will probably be on the field if indeed you have to see Jayden Reed miss. So in that situation where none of these wide receivers last year were reliable, they were dropping the ball left and right, none of them were able to crack 1,000 receiving yards, they were all kind of inconsistent depending on the week, Matthew Golden is primed for a breakout and to earn the trust of Jordan Love. Here is that news on Jayden Reed. As you can see right here, he doesn't have much interest in the timeline doctors recommended for him recovering from a Jones fracture, which is really interesting that he doesn't have interest, but as of like last week, he was still running with pain in his foot. Again, on average, a Jones fracture is 6 to 8 weeks. It could take, if you don't treat it right, 3+ months to recover. We're hoping that he's treating it right and that the medical staff for the Packers know that this is a serious thing. So maybe Jayden Reed will be ready week 1, and maybe he has to just play with this pain in his foot and that the bone bruise won't lead to like a bigger stress fracture that it leads to a crack in the ankle, right? We'll end up seeing what happens here, but as it seems right now, he's not going to be at least 100% healthy for week 1. And at the end of the day, Matthew Golden getting that first round capital, be operating as a number 1 receiver all of training camp right now with the Packers offense, that makes me feel, and in the preseason when we got to see his limited action with Jordan Love in the first game and the family night game, it makes me feel really good. Jordan Love is somebody who's ranked top 5 in deep attempts in red zone throws last year per game. That fits perfectly with Matthew Golden. That's why I'm trying to trade for Matthew Golden right now in situations where I can get a deal done. So that's the list. Those are 7 wide receivers you want to trade for before week 1 begins. Now, if you want to see the running back version of this video, which just released yesterday, you could check it out. It's going to be right here. These are going to be the 5 running backs you want to target before week 1 begins, because the guys in this video, they might come out week 1, have better roles than expected. Now their value goes higher and they're more expensive to trade for, or maybe your friends don't even want to trade them. So check out this video before that happens.